I also think that Marvel is on this journey now of they're trying a bunch of other stuff, and I'm excited for them to see how all that goes, and it's hard to project.
Now there are so many rumors still out there, fan theories. People want to see Iron Man come back. Could it ever happen?
Yeah, anything could happen. I'm really enjoying.
And all these wonderful things.
I'm looking right down the barrel.
I love you 3000.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. Marvel just revealed that they're formally planning on bringing Robert Downey Jr. back as a couple different versions of Iron Man in multiple future movies, so we'll break it all down. There are a few surprises, but it does confirm some of our long-standing theories after Avengers Endgame.
Whatever it takes. Whatever it takes. No fears, no regrets.
Of course, they were always going to bring a version of him back at some point. Like, this was not the end of Robert Downey Jr. appearing in Marvel movies. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. There's a bunch of big Marvel Phase 5 stuff coming up. We are starting Marvel Phase 5. There's going to be a new Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania trailer video for Kang really soon, more Secret Invasion, and more Loki Season 2 footage. It is going to be crazy, but you probably saw news about Robert Downey Jr. coming back in your feeds recently. It confirms one of our long-standing theories. The minute that he died in Avengers Endgame snapping the Infinity Gauntlet, everyone assumed at some point they would bring a version of him or a variant of him, because we have variants now to the Loki series, back in some way. In the comics, there's no such thing as permadeath. There were even people after Avengers Endgame, legit, like on a lot of my just regular Marvel videos, who were convinced, absolutely convinced, that Marvel would never do another Avengers movie. Like, oh, sweet summer child, let me tell you about something called the comics. There's no such thing as them stopping Avengers movies. Everything comes back in some form eventually. The best example of that is Spider-Man No Way Home last year, canonizing Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man and Andrew Garfield's Amazing Spider-Man and the Netflix Daredevil series to the MCU through the Multiverse. They just did a version of the Illuminati team with a bunch of X-Men Fantastic Four Easter eggs in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, and they were going to have Tom Cruise playing the 838 Universe superior Iron Man variant of the character. They're doing weirder and weirder concepts and characters from the comics. Bringing Robert Downey Jr. back is nothing compared to some of the big twists with Kang that are coming up and some of the weirder new cosmic villains that we're going to see in the next few years. The real question was, how would they explain him coming back? What version of the character would he be? And Robert Downey Jr. himself has been talking to a lot of people the last couple years about this, and even people like Joe Rogan grilled him on coming back with twists like time travel.
Is the door to Iron Man totally closed? Because I don't believe it is.
Oh.
You guys can go through time now. You can go. You already opened up that door.
Well, let me ask you the question. If I pick the jersey back up and put it on, wouldn't you feel a little bit like, oh,
no.
crap?
No.
Oh.
Here's what I think.
Right.
They go through a few semi-lackluster Avengers movies without you. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
Here's the scene. There's a moment where the world's fate is at stake, and they realize they need a super genius. And then they figure out how to restart that time machine.
Great.
Come on, man.
Is that
the audience sees you when you step out of that thing?
Is this your? And you want a little arc on it too? Because if this is your idea, then you got to show up for it too.
I'll do it. I'll show up. What do I have to do?
I don't know.
I'll do whatever I have to do.
We all have to do whatever Kevin Feige
I'll hold
says.
the thing. I'll hold the clap thing. Do they still have that? Clap.
They do. They do. It's digital.
I'll hold that digital thing. I'll do it. But the way people would freak out if you came back, come on.
Even though I don't totally think they're going to use time travel to just bring the 616 version of Iron Man back, like bring him back from permadeath, we are getting ready for Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania with a version of Kang. He is all about time travel. He's a time travel villain, essentially, and will be the main villain of Avengers 5 and Avengers 6. But based on this new report about Robert Downey Jr. coming back for multiple movies, it's actually supposed to be a couple different versions of Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man. Like, it won't be the same version showing up at a couple different places. It'll be Robert Downey Jr. playing very different versions of the character in different projects. The first big place is in the Armor Wars movie, which is going to be a Marvel Phase 6 movie now. It started out as a Marvel Disney Plus series about Rhodey, based on the comics version of the Armor Wars story. They adapted a portion of that during the Iron Man 2 movie. In the original version of that story, it was Justin Hammer getting control of Iron Man's armor tech and using them to attack him.
Underway on a series for Disney Plus based on Armor Wars, a classic Marvel story about Tony Stark's worst fear coming true. It's what happens when his tech falls into the wrong hands. And this series will star beloved member of the MCU, Don Cheadle, will be returning as Jim Rhodes aka War Machine.
Just because it's changed into a movie now doesn't mean the plot has changed a bunch. They've just changed the way that they plotted it out, like it's a much faster version of the story. Because instead of 6 hours, it's going to be a 2-hour plus movie. The reason why they turned it into a full-blown movie instead of a Disney Plus series is budget mostly, because they wanted to have a bunch of Iron Man armors, and it was going to be super expensive to do that for the entire 6-episode series. Typically, they only spend about $150 million on the Disney Plus series. Even if it's 9 episodes or 6 episodes, the budget is still the same. That's why some of the episodes are shorter for like the 9 and 10 episode series and longer for the 6-episode series, because the budget is the same. One of the things they've changed about that, though, is for stuff like Daredevil Born Again, because it's going to be 18 episodes, obviously they need way more money to do twice as many episodes. But there are two big ways that they can bring him back in Armor Wars. One is in just basic flashbacks for scenes of him and Rhodey that we haven't seen before he died in Endgame. The other, and I think more likely, is his digital consciousness just backed up before Avengers Endgame, like the Jarvis or the Friday version of Iron Man, but it's Tony Stark you're talking to. And in the comics, after the Second Civil War, he basically did this, like he backed his consciousness up before he seemingly died. But what wound up happening is that his body didn't fully perma-die, and eventually they rebooted his comic book. So in the movies, it's wide open for them to adapt this twist and do whatever they want to with it. In the main MCU, they cremated his body and scattered his ashes after Avengers Endgame in that lake near his house. Kevin Feige, the other Marvel people, has said that they don't want to take back the sacrifice of that Iron Man in Endgame wielding the Infinity Gauntlet by just bringing him right back as the exact same character. So I think that just means that the original 616 Iron Man won't be physically coming back, which I think makes it less likely that they would use a big time travel twist like Joe Rogan wants them to use. Even though Marvel did copyright the Avengers Assemble name for the movies in the Disney Plus series because they're going to do a Young Avengers project, and there is a lot of Young Avengers Kang time travel twists with young versions of Kang. But I think that all just confirms that however Robert Downey Jr. shows up in Armor Wars, it'll be a version of him in present day, which I think soft confirms that it'll be like a digital version of his consciousness, which will just help Rhodey defeat whoever the villain winds up being, whether or not they bring Justin Hammer back or it winds up being some other character. The other movie they're trying to bring him back for, as you would expect, is Avengers 6 Secret Wars as a multiverse version of the character. They didn't confirm that his Secret Wars character would be another variant of Iron Man, just that it was Robert Downey Jr. coming back as a variant of Tony Stark. So I'm hoping that they pay off the earlier Infinity War Easter egg where he briefly became the Sorcerer Supreme and Doctor Strange briefly became a version of Iron Man when they swapped armors, basically. There was a version of Tony Stark in the comics that did become Sorcerer Supreme. You just call him Sorcerer Supreme when that happens. But Doctor Strange's title when he becomes a version of Iron Man is the Iron Mage. We had the What If series. There was also a What If comic book where a variant of Tony Stark does become the Sorcerer Supreme, but he builds himself a special magically laced armor. Part of what Marvel does is when they delete scenes like that, like it's really cool, really wish we'd have seen it, but when they delete that, Marvel will bring those scenes back in bigger ways in future movies. Avengers Secret Wars is the perfect place to have a version of Tony Stark show up who is the Sorcerer Supreme in his universe. And the whole idea with Avengers 5 Kang Dynasty and Avengers 6 Secret Wars is that they're basically splitting one giant movie the way that they did with Infinity War and Avengers Endgame with like a big downer Empire Strikes Back kind of ending at the end of the first film. So during Marvel Phase 5, we're slowly going to see this new Avengers team in the 616 Marvel Universe come together. We'll see them on screen together for the first time in Captain America 4 New World Order. It'll be like Falcon's New Avengers. We'll meet Kang the Conqueror during Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. I believe he's going to be the version that we'll see in Avengers 5 Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars. During Kang Dynasty, they're doing a version of Avengers Kang War from the comics, where it's the Avengers battling many versions of Kang, but eventually he will spank them hard, like they will lose hardcore. They'll have the downer ending, kind of like Thanos snapping the Infinity Gauntlet at the end of Infinity War. Kang will successfully collapse the multiverse into a single universe with one world, like the Battleworld from the newer Secret Wars storyline. And supposedly their new version of the 1 in 14 million chance of winning storyline is Doctor Strange, the other survivors of Kang Dynasty, searching the multiverse for more powerful characters to form a multiverse Avengers. And it'll be a much bigger version of the final battle that we saw in Avengers Endgame with an Avengers Assemble, but it's a bunch of multiverse, even more powerful Avengers defeating Kang. After which they reform the multiverse, repair the multiverse, however you want to think about it, with a couple minor changes to help explain mutants, X-Men showing up more in Marvel Phase 7 in the 616 MCU, and some legacy characters coming back even more. and the rest of all the big multiverse characters going back to their original universes, Robert Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark variant included, but also explaining that there's always going to be versions of him out there that could come back, and it doesn't always have to be the same version. It's one of those multiverse jokes now, like, we have the multiverse now, so technically everything is canon. There's no idea that is too weird now that they can't pull off because of the multiverse. Let me know in the comments, how do you want them to bring him back during Armor Wars, and how do you want him to come back during Avengers Secret Wars? There'll be a couple big trailers dropping really soon. They also just made a couple big announcements. You can click here to learn about Ben Affleck coming back as a new Marvel villain in Marvel Phase 5. And click here for my new Loki Season 2 trailer video and Easter eggs. Thank you so much for watching. Everyone stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.